Hey people, Rio Wolfhard here. I'm a guitar player from a hard rock band called Wolf Spirit, and today I want to talk about the difference between SG and a Les Paul. And here's a little battle I recorded between these two guitars. Enjoy. So yeah, people, I think let's start with the similarities that these two guitars have and the differences. So the similarities in construction, I think, is pretty obvious. They're both big chunks of mahogany. Like, take a look at this SG right here. This is a mahogany body, it's a mahogany neck, and a rosewood fingerboard, and that's it, right? It's kind of similar actually with this one. It's a mahogany body, mahogany neck, rosewood fingerboard. But yo, what do we have here? A maple top. And apparently that makes a big difference. I mean, not only the optic and the look of it, it looks beautiful, doesn't it? Those tiger stripes in here, really, it's so sexy. But apparently that also makes a tonal difference, they say. So, my SG doesn't have a maple top, but it is still beautiful, and it has these beautiful devilish horns right here. Like, I almost thought that SGs are one of the motherfucking most beautiful guitars out there. They just look so badass and cool, and I think that's one of the coolest things about the SG. An SG is gonna be a whole lot lighter than a Les Paul. Like, when I play sessions with a Les Paul or a gig, and it's like 2 or 3 hours worth of playing time, and I have a belt and that Les Paul hanging on my left shoulder. My left shoulder always gets sore, and it always gets tight at the end of the night. I never have that problem with the SG. So yeah, I always have to do some kind of stretches and exercises, and ask my wife to give me a massage when I played a lot with the Les Paul. Don't have to do that with the SG. When I hear a track, I can instantly tell that's played with a single coil or it's played with a humbucker. But to be more precise than that, like to say, okay, that's a Telecaster or Stratocaster, that's a little bit more difficult, but can still be done. I think it's even more difficult with humbucking guitars. Like, I do not nail it every time when I hear a song I don't know what guitars were played with. I can hear it's a humbucker, but I cannot nail it every time if it's a SG or if it's a Les Paul or something else like a 355 ES 355 330 355 or even something else than that. But when you compare guitars like this, like the SG or the Les Paul, AB 'em, man, the difference is so obvious. It's like two different worlds actually. Like, let me show you that. I'm gonna play a riff. Okay, I'm gonna play a riff with the SG, and I'm gonna try to play exactly the same thing with the Les Paul. So here we go. Okay, now let me play exactly the same thing with the Les Paul. Like, did I promise you too much? The sound difference is huge. As you just heard, the Les Paul sounds a lot thicker. It sounds kind of like how, like the difference in construction, it really reflects in the sound. Isn't that, that's something that amazes me every time. Like even with a 335, you know, it sounds more airy than a Les Paul because it's a hollow body. Like, that's so amazing for me, that it really reflects into the electric sound that you get. This guitar is a lot more heavier, it has a lot more mahogany, it has a maple top, as I said, and somehow you can hear all that in the electric sound. Like, listen again how thick that sound is. Again with the SG. Again, you can hear it immediately. The Les Paul just has a thicker, more bottom end, and the resolution of the presence of that brilliance seems to be more. Like, it's not that it has more more treble or anything like that. I believe this guitar, the SG, just has as much, like, it doesn't sound dull or anything, right? But the brilliance is like, as if the resolution of that brilliance of that treble is a bit higher on a Les Paul. Like, that's how I hear it. And I think that's because of the maple top. And that all that bottom end and that low end thump, that's just because of the mass of the mahogany, just because it has more, the Les Paul. The SG here, on the other hand, it sounds much more mid-focused. And that's something that makes the SG, again, so nice, because that's what the guitar is for, right? Like, it's a mid-range instrument. And that's not just me that's saying that. I mean, there's so many guitar players. And then in an interview, I just watched the rig rundown of Tom Bukowac. He's saying exactly the same thing, that he even prefers SGs over Les Pauls because they just have that nice mid-range emphasis, and it really sits really nicely in the mix. And that's exactly what I feel too. Like, these SGs right here, they do exactly what the guitar is supposed to do. Like, all that low end is really nice, man. It's beautiful. It's so soft and buttery and creamy, you know what I mean? But the SG is just doing its job. And the SG is much more in your face. Like, when you listen to the mix, I'm not talking about volume. I'm talking about in the stereo image, like how much the guitar is hitting you in your face, you know? And I have the impression that Les Paul's always a little bit more laid back, so to say, and SG's like a fist that just punches you in your face, you know? There's something with the SG you can't do with Les Paul, and it has to do the way the guitar is constructed. And SG has two cutaways, right? That's why we have these nice horns right here that I talked about. And that means that the neck sits not as firmly as it does with a Les Paul. The disadvantage is it gets out of tune just a slightly bit more than a Les Paul, at least in my experience, but there's a benefit. You can do this. Like, isn't that cool? That's like a built-in whammy bar, only it doesn't, of course, have a whammy bar. And I'm just bending the neck. Either I'm pushing it in this direction, and then it's like a mini dive bomb effect, or I can pull the neck, and then the tone will go up just slightly a little bit. If you do both, it's like a little tremolo or vibrato. I like to pull it just because it's easier, you know. But as I said, the disadvantage is it gets out of tune slightly faster. You could put locking tuners on here. I don't have that. But tuning is an issue with SGs in my experience, at least. Like, let me know in the comments if that's something that that you've experienced too. I'm gonna show you the sustain thing with the SGs compared to Les Pauls, because SGs just don't have as much sustain as Les Pauls. I'm gonna show you. Now let me show you the same thing with the Les Paul. The sustain thing isn't a big thing, but the Les Paul does have a little bit more, just because it has more mass, it has more body, and that just makes the guitar sustain just a little bit longer. It's really nice for playing lead stuff and stuff like that, for solos. So there's a thing that I've discovered with my SGs. I don't know if it's with every SG. Maybe put that in the comments if you made that same experience. But I experienced that my SGs have a higher action than my Les Pauls, and I can't put it any lower. Like, I have it at the lowest setting right here. The neck is completely straight and the bridge is pretty much down, but still, like, the action is still higher. Like, it's not a high action, but it's still definitely a lot higher than on my Les Pauls. Yeah, I don't know if that's normal for SGs. Like, maybe you know more than me. Put it in the comments. But that definitely makes the playability of Les Paul easier for me. Like, that's another difference between these two guitars. Okay, people, I love both these models. I've always loved SGs because they just look so cool. They're ultra light, they play awesome, they sound awesome. I've also always loved Les Pauls. They have this thick, nice sound. And you know what? When you're in a band and you have two guitar players and you both want to play traditional guitar models, why not have one player Les Paul and the other one a SG? Because the thing is, a Les Paul is going to have its voice like in the low mids, I'm going to say, and an SG is going to have its voice in the mid mids. So they just complement each other really well. And even on a little production, on a demo, or when you do an album production or something, why not play one side of the speaker with an SG and then double the other side with a Les Paul? Like, it's just going to make it more exciting, add a little bit more color, and it's going to fill the frequency. It's going to fill the frequency out a lot better than doing everything with just one guitar. For me, I like to switch between these two guitars. I don't think there's a better, like, in the end, it's all personal preference. SG definitely has its benefits, but the Les Paul definitely has its sound. Like, every guitar has its sound. So people, let me know what you think about this video. I'm sure I forgot stuff to say, so put that in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and see you next time. Thanks for watching.